I think back in 2007, most developers or project marketers didn't really. They thought an email with someone's details was rubbish. They didn't think that was a quality lead. They wanted someone walking into their display suite with a couple of brochures and having done their research, and that was a qualified lead in their mind, not an email inquiry that came through. That was worth nothing.
You are listening to the Property Developer Podcast, your home for tips, ideas and inspiration to help take your developing to the next level. Now here's your host, Justin Getty.
Hello and welcome to episode 51. Thanks for joining me. How are you doing? Are you making progress with your projects? I'm fine. Just got back from a family holiday to Hamilton Island, which was stunning. Apart from the 2 shark attacks that happened while we were there. Apart from that, the Whitsundays is such an amazing part of the world. Turquoise blue water, clear skies, just really amazing. Australia really does have some incredibly beautiful spots. And I noted quite a bit of mainly residential development going on across the island. Anyway, if you're looking for a nice, relaxing place to get away from it all, then check out Hamilton Island. On the project front, we have just finished the advertising period for one of my projects and have a public consultation meeting next week. We again had a significant number of objections, so we'll see what they are and if we can address them. With my other project, we are still gathering together reports and updating some drawings in response to Council's request for further information. And we have until the end of this month to submit everything, which I'm confident that we will do. Before we move on to today's guest, don't forget to contact me if you are interested in learning how to develop, and I will send you some information about the mentoring program that can get your development career started. Email me, justin@propertydeveloperpodcast.com if you are keen. Okay, on with the show. Today I am talking marketing off-the-plan properties with Tim Fleming. Tim is currently working on a couple of publishing platforms that help developers market their stock. And Tim was also involved very early on with realestate.com.au. So he's enjoyed a front row seat over the past 10 years as the digital wave crashed over the property market. We talk about what impact digital marketing has had in off-the-plan sales, how you respond to a changing market, and a couple of great ways you can generate and nurture leads. If you want some ideas on how you can generate more leads for your next project, then we share a couple of gems that won't break the bank. As usual, I started off by asking Tim what food he would eat until he was sick.
Spaghetti bolognese, I could have that for breakfast, lunch and dinner 365 days of the week. It wouldn't consume me one bit, but unfortunately I can't. It is my food of choice.
What's your own home?
My own brew. It's formed and evolved over the years, but bolognese is it's been my specialty. There's a couple of variations of it, but anyone that's worked with me understands how passionate I am about spaghetti bolognese. So if you want to do a podcast on spaghetti bolognese, I'm happy to come back again.
Well, is there some kind of secret sauce or secret ingredients to your recipe?
There is. Well, it's not really a secret. It's just about doing it all from scratch.
Okay.
And so I make my own passata.
Oh, yeah. And
I use a variety of meat as well, veal and pork and bruschetta. I've got a bit of my own secret.
That's all right. I've got my own secret pasta sauce recipe on my phone, and I might show it to you after we finish the recording and we can share notes.
Sounds great. Bought something.
Now, we're here today to talk about development marketing. If you can give us a bit of a background on who you are and what you've done and why we're sitting here today.
Yes, well, I probably been more involved in the marketing and advertising space early on in the piece, and I started working early days with Channel 10. I was involved in media sales, selling TV space, and then I went and played sport for a period of time, and then came back and got myself in with News Corp, and I was involved in the real estate section of news community papers. And which was quite big back then. Localised community papers held a lot of the property marketing, and they were going fairly well at that point. And I found myself in a situation like 2007 where where I saw a lot of media dollars moving across online, or starting to move across online, and developers were starting to talk about, what's this digital space, and starting to look at allocating more revenue towards it. So my sales director at the time tasked me with going and doing a competitive analysis. He didn't think that online was much of a thing. I suggested that we look at doing community-based, using our community websites to market projects. I didn't like that idea, and I came back with my competitive analysis and showed where all the money was going, and then I handed my resignation in at the same time, and I'd taken a role over at realestate.com.au back in 2007, which was sort of the very early stages of the development business at REA.
And what were you doing over there?
I went in as an account manager, and I was working with project marketers and developers and banks, and helping them use realestate.com.au as a medium to generate leads, create awareness of projects, all sorts of things, push traffic through to websites, all these things that I had no idea about at the time.
But now you've mastered?
Well, it took us a long time to master. None of us knew what we were doing back then. Online was the new frontier, and we didn't know what we were doing. We had this website, we had a whole heap of traffic, a lot of people coming to it, and we were literally learning on the fly. We're working out where to place ads on the site, what to write on the ads, what sections of the site work best, and then we were just monitoring it and watching things move. For the banks, it would be, let's put a calculator in this spot and see what happens. How many people use the calculator, and then how many people put their details into a calculator, and they click on the calculate button, and all of that had currency. The banks were looking at that, so they would say, okay, this is how long people are looking at your calculator, this is how many page impressions it serves, and this is how many leads we send through. So it would reverse engineer all of that and come up with the price that NAB had to pay for the year, and we'd put it down on the table and hope that they would take it, and they started to, after a period of time, they started to accept these proposals, and we're on the map. And the banking side and developers was developers. The lion's share of spend was going towards print back then. So it took a lot of time to teach the developers, or explain to them how this all worked, and to show them the value. And often, I think back in 2007, most developers or project marketers didn't really. They thought an email with someone's details was rubbish. They didn't think that was a quality lead. They wanted someone walking into their display suite with a couple of brochures and having done their research, and that was a qualified lead in their mind, not an email inquiry that came through. That was worth nothing. And
so, what would you say was the evolution of realestate.com over that time, from a general property marketing perspective, but more specifically for developers?
Yeah, I think it went in a couple of stages, and the first part was learning for us, as I said before, learning how to use online or use realestate.com as in a beneficial way for the developers. So that was us. That was the first part, us understanding what we were doing. Once we worked it out, it was really about educating the developers and project marketers that, in fact, what we're sending you is quality. These are real people, and you're getting lots of them that are either hitting your own website, and they hit your website, and often hit the website and we'd lose them because the website wasn't done very well. So we'd have to go on something. So we started building websites, showing them how to capture the lead once we sent someone through to their website. So we had to teach them not only how to use and structure their ads on our site, but then how to manage their own backyard in terms of how to structure a website, what sort of fields they should put in their forms to not scare people away, and really just teach them how to use online, and then it came to the point where we had to teach them how to deal with these online inquiries as well. They need an email back. They often want maybe a floor plan or a brochure, or and they want to be responded to within a certain period of time. don't leave them on the heap, because you've got all these people walking into your displays. So there's a lot of education involved. So there's learning ourselves, educating the market on how to use real estate, and I think that was more. I think we were probably the leaders in that space, because Google wasn't really doing a great deal for letting them how to use search engines back then. We were probably the only site that was getting enough traffic really to be able to test and learn. So once there was that teaching part, and I think once the market understood what was going on, where the inquiries coming from, or how to deal with them, then it got to the point where we started winning, and that was a good feeling, because we always knew we had a really good product there, that we had a property audience, we were generating leads, and but we were getting a fraction of the spend. We were getting probably, back in 2007, we would have been getting probably 3 or 4% of the total marketing pipe, and we were probably back then doing 60% of the leads. Once we started winning was when we started to turn the dial a little bit on the percentages of share that we were getting, and then things sort of took off. Everyone took online as a serious vehicle to generate leads and sales, and we were able to start raising our rates a little bit. Now that's gone probably excessively in the direction now with realestate.com.au, but
lucky you've left, because I've had the darts in the bag ready to start throwing at realestate.com representatives who are gouging people out there now, but that's another discussion.
That is another discussion, that one. That I do get darts thrown at me occasionally from project marketers and developers all around the country, based around the price rising, but I'm no longer there, so I'm not deserved of being hit by a dart, I think. Sort of direct them in other directions, please.
And so you took what you learnt there and escaped into the private sector, or?
Well, I actually went over to Asia and worked over with my old boss from REA. Moved over to Malaysia and became CEO of a company called iCar Asia, and iCar Asia is the sister company of iProperty, and iProperty is the network of websites based in Southeast Asia, in Malaysia, Singapore, Indonesia, Thailand, Hong Kong, and iCar were in Malaysia and Thailand and Indonesia. So we worked very closely together. So I spent 2 years there as the general manager of media and new cars, and then REA bought iProperty, and I was sitting very close by, and we were ready to come back to Melbourne, and so I was thrown in as part of the deal to come back to REA as part of the development team to help connect the Australian projects with Southeast Asian, and we had a site in China as well, Southeast Asian audiences, and more importantly networks. So agent groups over there that were, and back 2 years ago, that was a very big thing. Having access to 250,000 agents in Southeast Asia. The investment market was really hot back then, as you know. It's since dropped off the cliff because of the tightening of foreign investment in Australian property. So spent 2 years, pretty much 2 years doing that, working in between sort of Australia and Southeast Asia with the iProperty teams, and then about 10 months ago decided to make the move. I've known Geordie and Tom for a period of time, so we've been speaking on a regular basis, and then made the decision to jump over to join the guys, and we formed AD Group, which is the business. The guys started apartmentdevelopments.com.au about 4 or 5 years ago, and that's grown over the years and expanded. And more recently, we started houseandlanddevelopments.com.au, which is for the land developers and project marketers and house and land builders. And we have another company called Development ID, which is a stock and sales management tool for project marketers and developers to help them manage the process of selling down projects either through retail or through networks. We help connect to networks as well. We've got a couple of tools that help you showcase your project in your display suite or in a show over in Asia if you need to do that. So moved over to be a part of the business. There's a lot going on. It's exciting. Very small team, but we're doing the best that we can, and we're making some impact, I think, and we're trying to just chip away a little bit at the rivers of gold that come from REA and Domain, and make our way in the fight against the big guys.
So what would you say then is what differentiates you from a realestate.com or a Domain?
Yeah, well, that was important to establish because they have a massive audience. You know, REA and Domain are hard to compete with, and REA in particular have always won the consumer battle. They've always got people. They've got large volumes of people coming to their site directly and organically, and that's always going to be difficult to compete with. Having said that, they have real estate have people coming in for all sorts of reasons, you know, to check out established property units, house and land, townhouses, apartments. So there are a variety of reasons why people are coming in. A lot of people come into real estate .com to the US for entertainment as well, not even in the market. So we all knew that, so I think the point of difference for us really is that we're remaining focused on a particular vertical, and we've had discussions of going into we're in house and land now, but that's a completely separate website. We don't bring the same sorts of traffic through. So we're focusing on being a vertical, being good at what we do, and making sure that we are helping on converting those that come to our site into an inquiry, and which has worked and worked really well. 10% of people that come to our site convert to a lead, which is a good statistic. And the feedback that we get from our clients is that our conversion rate, so our quality, is better than the competition. So our conversion rates of sales is stronger than what you get from real estate or Domain, and that's because the people that come to an off-the-plan apartment website are usually in the market for an off-the-plan apartment. So they're not just sort of mucking around looking for entertainment. They're actually in that space. Now we have a certain percentage of our site that comes. So our site traffic that comes in organically and direct, but we also apply a bit of smarts and try to finding the right type of traffic. If people they're in the market for an apartment in the southeast, then we'll look at ways of generating interest in that area, looking at audiences that have suggested they're interested in apartments in Burwood and find them online and bring them through the site. So we don't have the luxury of just opening the doors and the traffic comes flying through. we look to bring the right type of traffic through our website that converts into an inquiry. So, long story short, our point of difference is we have a quality. We believe we've got a more high quality audience that converts better into sale than a real estate or a Domain does.
So, what would you say are the lessons that you have taken away from your time working for one of the big players? What are the key lessons that you've brought across and that you're really hammering home or leveraging with the new platforms?
Well, firstly is to be empathetic to the industry and the clients you work with. So pricing is very important, and we're in a position where we can be a bit flexible with our pricing. We don't want to price gouge. We want to make sure that what we're doing is returning a cost efficient lead and sales. So pricing and product is really important, and it takes a fair bit of thought to be put into the type of products you roll into your platform, and making sure that you price it correctly, because our business is dependent on making other businesses work well, and if we aren't able to do that, and developers and project marketers don't see the value in what we provide, then we fall apart as a business. So that's probably one thing. Product and pricing is crucial. Getting that right is really important on our side. And I was involved in a lot of those discussions at REA when we're looking at new products or pricing particular products that we were rolling out, and so I understand how that all works. And here we look very closely before we roll something out to the market, and we make sure that we price it correctly. So that's important. I think campaign management, understanding how your campaigns are going and how they're converting to leads, how many clicks you need to get a lead, how many leads you need to get a sale. Looking at projects and saying okay, and giving a developer or project marketer a bit of feedback as to what they can expect. Now that you can do that based on averages, but the reality is every project's very different. And if your townhouse project in Kilsyth is priced a particular way, I don't know how well you market it, you might not get the sales. But if it's priced the right way, then you're likely to get a strong conversion rate from click to lead and lead to sales. So it's probably experience has been really important to be able to have those discussions with developers and project marketers to say, okay, this is where you're sitting. We think this campaign is going to work really well. We're going to roll this type of plan out for you, but realistically, you're going to have some issues because there's other projects up the road that are priced, $2,000 or $3,000 a square metre less than what you've got here. So you've got to set the expectations of some developers and some project marketers. So look, a bit of experience and understanding the market has probably helped. And I think product and pricing would be something that's pretty important to put across.
And so can you just talk me through that campaign management? So if I come to you and go, Tim, I've got my project here, thinking of going with you guys, how do you manage a campaign? What do you go through? What's the key points? Yeah,
well, the most important thing is understanding the project. So if someone comes to you with a project, you just need to get all the information you possibly can. So the first meeting you normally have with the client would be discovering, finding out about your townhouses, what the location, the size of the apartment or the townhouse, what demographic you're going after. Is it first home buyers? Is there an element of investor stock there that you want to try and use, because we've got solutions for that as well. Understand their price per square metre and get a feel for the budget is important as well, and knowing how much budget they've got. Can they use all the tools that we've got to be able to get the best out of the campaign, and how long they're wanting to be on market. Now, most project marketers or developers want to be sold out first weekend. Of course, that's the best case scenario. But the reality is, it's probably going to be around for a period of time. So getting a feel for, is it going to be are you expecting to be on market for 6 months, 12 months, 2 years, and that just gives you a bit of a feel for how you spend the money that they've got from a marketing point of view. So that's the most important step. Once you understand the project, then you can go about picking off using products that we've got to put together the right sort of plan that'll create awareness of your project in the area and the demographic that you're chasing, and then generate leads from those that have seen your advertising, and not just any leads, but quality leads, because that's our point of difference, is that our leads are of a high quality. And because you can generate leads anyway. Anyone can generate a lead. It's just making sure that lead is of good quality, and that they're a good chance to qualify as a sale at some point.
So imagining the campaign goes beyond just advertising or a placement on the platform. There's other activities that you'd be doing.
Yeah, there's a lot that goes into a campaign. Really, we've got our listings on the site, and then we've got a variety of other additions that you can add, menu that you can add to that you can pick from to put together the right plan. We don't give it to the client and ask them to select what they want. Our guys are experienced enough now to say, okay, this is your project, this is where it's located, this is the pricing, this is our specialist, we're the specialists in this space, this is what we recommend that you use to get the best result from your campaign with us. that's a variety of products on, say, apartment developments, if it's an apartment development that we're talking about, but there might also be, through the discovery meeting, there might also be a discussion we've had about helping the project marketer or the developer connect with some local groups or some international investors, and so part of our response would be, hey, okay, if you need pre-sales to be at 15% before you kick your retail campaign off, then here's a solution for that, and this is what it costs. We'll connect you with groups through our platform development ID, and then you'll get the opportunity to sit down with networks, groups, talk about your project, tell them what the incentives are, and then they'll make a decision as to whether they want to take your project on and look to push it through their investment channels.
So is there a particular type of project that wouldn't be suitable?
Yes, there's...
I'm guessing a 2-unit development in Frankston, or... Look,
generally that if they're not big enough to have a marketing budget, you don't really... Well, there's no point us having a conversation with them, really. I mean, if it's 2 units, your local agent's going to be doing it, and they're not going to come and... They might go to realestate.com to you and get the basic listing there, but it's not big enough really to warrant going out to other publishers. So generally speaking, over 10 units would be something that would have a conversation with them about. If there's anything under, would say, hey, look, go to real estate, get a featured property down there, and that's probably more going to fit the bill for you. Over 10 would be the market. There's even some that are over 10 or bigger projects where we look at and go, I don't know whether we can help you out. But look, as the business is evolving, we're finding other ways. If there's a certain demographic that we're not that strong in, we're now finding ways to find that demographic online, and you can do that through all sorts of levers that you can pull about getting access to particular data that you can retarget against, looking at databases of particular investment groups, databases of particular products that might be more in line with high-end products that you can tap into, high-end property. So there's different ways of getting yourself involved in different demographics. So we don't turn too many away. There'll be discussions, and the expectations will be set. Will be set as to where we think they're going to be from a cost per lead perspective and conversion rate of sale.
And so it sounds like you're lead conversion specialists. So you get people to the platforms, and then you work hard to convert them. So is that on-page functionality that helps to do that, or what's without giving away the secret sauce?
Look, it's actually more about where you go to get the audience to come through, because you can't convince someone that's writing a Hotmail email and with an ad to come through and say, actually, you know what, I am going to buy an apartment today. It's not really one of those sort of decisions you make quickly. So we're just we're a bit selective as to where we go to find those audiences, and we write a lot of content. Content's huge for us now, and we're doing more and more content to bring traffic back into our site. We write articles around the market, particular regions and locations, and then people are reading that, and then we give them a couple of options in the area. They can click through and they can check out particular listings in those areas, and that tends to work really well for us from a lead generation perspective. And to the point now where we've productised that. We're doing that just for our own audience sake, and now it's probably one of our most popular products. We'll go and talk to a developer about what they're doing and say, look, as part of your plan, you should factor in, writing some content around your launch, writing some content around spruiking about the fact that you sold 25% the first day, whether or not it happened or not, but you can write about it. The builder's been appointed or something like that. So we give them some suggestions as to what topics that they should write on. But that's been a really popular product.
I think for developers out there, small and medium, I still think that content generation is a real opportunity for them, particularly around helping buyers make a buying decision or to consider what they need to think about before they buy. So if they're moving into an apartment, well, are they going to need to buy new furniture? How do you buy furniture for potentially a smaller residence than what you've been in? Or what are the other things you need to think about before you buy an apartment? Or if you're moving into a smaller property because the kids have left home, well, what are you going to do? Do you have to get rid of all your property, or your insurance going to be different? There's a real opportunity there to build good content on your site that just helps people make a decision.
Yeah, and look, we're trying to do that. We're trying to do that through our content. Our content plan was this part of it is sponsored now. There's that type of content that we write as well. We would love to do more of it. We try to do as much as we can in that space. But yeah, I agree. I mean, and for smaller developers out there, I mean, if you're wanting to find a way to bring people through to your own website, then that's a great way of doing it. I mean, you set yourself up with a little account, and off you go, and you write about apartments in your area, and pick off some key topics, push it out there on Facebook and other platforms and to your own database. That's one thing that I think developers and project marketers don't focus too much on. That's their own database. They might call them and send them stuff occasionally, but seeing them really valuable content and keeping them engaged in the market is something that I think, because the market's been so hot over the years, they just move on. A sale's made or inquiry has been dealt with, they move on to where the next sale's coming from, and probably don't focus too much on that goal that they've got sitting underneath, that now they might be ready to jump into the market. If you provide them with the right sort of content, keep them engaged and keep them across what you're doing and the opportunities that might present themselves from either investment or whatever it might be. But yeah, database marketing and content to drive to the database is something that I think everyone's starting to look at now, but probably something that hasn't been focused on too much.
Well, you've touched on the softening market, which is good. So where we're sitting right now, Melbourne has softened, Sydney has softened. I guess people who are listening in Perth are like, welcome to the party. Well, what's your advice on how you respond in a softening market? I mean, it's come off being very, very strong in Sydney and Melbourne, so I guess we're back to what might be considered a more normalised market. People just have forgotten what that's actually like. That's right. I think that normal's been something that I've heard it a couple of times now. I was in Sydney and I spent a bit of time up there, and they're now saying, a couple of people that I met with were talking about how tough it is up there and how hard it is to get sales away. And so maybe he's actually gone. Girl used to work at REA, and she said, well, it seems things are actually quite normal now. And I thought that was a great way of explaining it, because it is. It's fairly normal. Things are still selling, I think, if they're priced correctly. And, there's probably going to be a period in Sydney where things will remain the way they are, maybe for another 12 months, and might kick off again. But, every market's so different in Australia. It's almost like different countries. The markets are polar opposites wherever you go, and even there's sub-markets within markets. You talk about softening. I mean, there's some areas of the market are still flying. It's all location and product based, and even 3-bedroom apartments in South Bank are going all right. There's not many of them around. They get supply and demand. But townhouses in certain areas are going really strong. There's subsections that are going really well. Some aren't. House and land's still going really strong in Melbourne. In Poplar, it's softened a little bit, but for the most part, they're
still selling and leads are flowing and things are going okay. Queensland, different parts of Brisbane that are really battling, and have been for a year or two and probably will be for another. But then there's other parts in the outer suburbs of Brisbane that are going really well on the medium density side of things. So it's not, you can't sort of look at conditions as broadly as that, I don't think, and say everything's softening. I think there's parts of the market that are softening, and there's probably reasons for that.
And so is the solution to that to ramp up your marketing activities? Like if you go from having do you look at it as for the last 3 or 4 years you've only had to spend $2,000 on lead generation, and now you've got to spend $5,000 per lead, per sale, whatever it might be?
That's one way you could look at it, spending more to bring more in, but we would say have to look at moving. What happens in these type of markets, and it's when RER kicked in the property space, when a GFC hit, because what happened is suddenly marketers started to look at where the inquiry was coming from and where their money was going. The directors were going, what's happening? Where are the leads? Where are the sales? And they're going, shit. Well, we got 1,000 leads last month, and they said, well, where are they coming from? And I'm like, well, what do you mean? Where are they coming from? They're coming from our website. So how are they coming to the website? So then they're going, oh, right. So they started doing the analysis on where all these leads were coming from, and it wasn't coming from, they couldn't even track print back then, or it wasn't coming from radio, it wasn't coming from anywhere else, but it was coming from online. So then the owners of the business saying, well, get rid of all the other stuff that's not working, let's focus on where the inquiries are coming from. And that's when that share of the marketing pie grew for online, and everyone started to focus on where the leads are coming from. We're probably coming back to a situation like that again, where everyone was trying new things maybe. There was a lot of money being spent in the network space on high commissions that they were offering to groups. That's probably changing a little bit now because the offshore markets have dropped off the cliff. So there's probably now coming into the stage where let's cut all the fat around our marketing and our sales and marketing expenses, and let's focus on what we can do here in terms of generating leads and sales. So to a certain degree, we'll go and say, okay, well, pull money from somewhere else and put it with us. We're generating quality leads for you, so that's what you want. You want quality leads that convert to sales. So we'll be ramping up those sorts of conversations in the market. But there's a lot of discussions that you have out there that with clients or projects that it's going to be hard work getting them over the line. The cost per lead, yes, is going to go up. Cost per sale is going to go up. But I think that all a lot of that comes back to the pricing again of particular projects. They might have bought the site too high and they've got to price their units at a higher rate, and there might be others out there that are priced lower, and the buyer's got choice now. So it's going to be harder to find someone that's going to buy their project that's probably a little bit overpriced.
And so then with the platform, is there some particular functionality or must-haves that you've put on there that you find convert really well?
On apartment developments? Yep. So, we heat map all the pages. We look where people are going and what they're doing and what they interact with. And so we're constantly rolling out new touch points around the site and measuring that and trying to improve our conversion rate. It's all percentages for us, conversion rate, how many people are coming to the site, how many people convert to a lead, how many people read an article then convert to a lead, how many people go to the project details page and convert to a lead, what do they do, what do they do before they generate a lead, do they read an article, do they download a brochure, all these little touch points around the site are important in getting someone to get to a point where they're going to generate a lead. And people that are starting off in the journey of looking to buy an apartment need different things to read. They might want to read about a market report or what's going on in the off the plan space, and they might want to read a suburb report. So they'll consume different types of content. So it's important to make sure you've got that well represented. Then you've got people that are ready to buy now, and they want a floor plan. They want to know how much they need to borrow, and they're more at the pointy ends that would make sure we've got that sort of information there for them. So yeah, it's about having the right content on the site for consumers to consume, so that they're comfortable enough to generate that inquiry at the end.
So are there essential items that you have on the site? I mean, floor plans, calculators. What about video?
Pricing is important as well. One of the things and we don't have it with all of our projects on site, but generally what happens is that if you haven't got your project priced, people just scroll past it. They don't know. You need to have a price against your apartment. So pricing is important. So to have your apartments from $5.99 is really important to get the interest. We're rolling out a new version of apartment developments coming soon. There'll be a couple of additional elements to it. Downloadable brochures are important to have. So for anyone out there that has their own website and they've got traffic coming through, it's important to have all the information clearly spelled out on your homepage to start with. About some content they consume, a downloadable brochure that they can take away, but make sure that if they're downloading that brochure, they're giving you something in return, so an email or a phone number, so that you can have a conversation with them. Finance calculators are important as well, and you can even do that as a project marketer, as a developer, find out how much you need to borrow, and that's a really important topic to understand now, because finance is a real challenge, and a lot of people out there are getting knocked back on buying off the plan because they can't get a loan. So understanding the situation on that front is pretty important as well. So you want to have something like that on your website if you're looking to keep people there on your site and convert them into a lead.
So you've touched on off the plan, which is a nice segue into what's different about selling off the plan than what you consider to be different than regular standalone existing properties or a completed project.
Yep. With an established property, you walk in there and you see it, and you can get emotionally attached to it based on how it looks, the suburb that it's in, and all those sorts of things that you can touch and feel, and you can experience it. Whereas off the plan, you're selling an idea of what this thing is going to look like, and you've got to, on the consumer side, you've got to believe that this is actually going to be what it looks like. So the renders are really important to get right and accurate. You've got to have as a consumer, you want to know that the architect's a good operator, the builder's got plenty of cash in the bank, and that these things are going to be built on time. So that you've got to be able to visualise the product that they're going to buy for a pretty hefty price most of the time, and you've got to make them comfortable that the people that are involved in the development are of high quality, and they're going to do what they say they're going to do, and they're going to deliver it in the way that they've presented it to you. In the time that they've said they're going to do it. So it's challenging for developers and project marketers out there to get that right and get all the right material in place. You just got to make sure you've got all the content there and really smart renders, and that if you're a developer, that you're working with architects and builders to ensure that they bring that trust factor to the table as well. Makes it a little bit easier to convert to a sale.
Which is where I think some of the content marketing side comes in around helping to build trust. If you can sort of chip away at that a little bit by showing that you're helpful and trustworthy, I think that goes some way towards warming up people to trusting you. And then, with your comparative analysis, you must look at lots of different projects and other platforms. What are the things that you see that you think could be done better? I was going to use the word mistakes, but I'm sort of avoiding that. You see other things and you go, we do it differently to that.
Other publishers or developers or project marketers.
Developers with their project marketing, things you see on other sites, or where you go, look, those guys are probably taking a direction that's not going to work for them. Yeah.
Well, I think some websites have overcomplicated things a little bit in the way that they go about giving information. You want, as a consumer, you want to keep things fairly clean and simple. There's all these comparison sites out there where you grab a house and land and you can match it up here with your lot, and there's just a lot going on. And I've been in the industry for 10 years now, and I understand the space. And I even find that a little bit confusing in some of those sites out there that do that. But we keep it very simple. We've got a clean looking site. We have what we think is the right content and information that the consumer would want to read about. We make sure that the pages are well mapped out. There's not too many ads running around and flicking like a pinball machine. And we keep it clean, keep the information real, and the project page, let the project page do the talking about the project. So we try to simplify things from a publisher point of view, and try to make it clear and easy to read for a punter. So I think that's not that anyone else is doing that too badly out there, but I think there's an element of that we see on other publishers' sites. So that's what we do. A part of the market that I think could be improved is the lead nurturing part, and I think we touched on it a little bit earlier. And all these, and it's been a thing for a long time. Since I started REA, it was explaining to the market how important online leads are and how you should deal with them. We used to run training courses. We'd get facilitators to come in, and they do a lot of mystery shopping and on our clients, and they'd come in and sort of go through these 2-day workshops on how to deal with an online inquiry, and what sort of information they need, what's the best time to call them back, and all these sorts of things to try and train our clients on how to best deal with their leads, and some have done it really well, but I think there's the market, the consumers change so much over time that people want to be contacted differently. They want different sorts of content. Some people don't want to speak to anyone anymore. Kids, today would prefer to be text messaged or something like that, or be sent something to consume rather than having to have that face-to-face conversation.
Don't have that same conversation with my wife sometimes. No talking.
Yes, yeah. That's so that's something I think that everyone understands now is that lead nurturing program that probably needs to be that individual developers and project marketers are looking at. How do you communicate with the people that are coming in, but in the best way to ensure that you're going to get the right result. If someone inquires, they might be at the start of their journey. You might not have 6 months to go before they buy, or they inquire and they're ready to buy tomorrow. So how do you deal with them, and what sort of content do you provide them, and how do you nurture them? How do you nurture that person that inquired you've got 6 months to go before they convert to a sale? So what do you do? What touch points do they need to either accelerate that selling process, or how do we just keep them engaged along the way so that when they are ready to drop, we're there in front and square and we pick up the sale.
And so what would you say is the way of standing out in a competitive market?
Well, getting your price right at the moment is the most important thing. It doesn't matter how much cut through you can get from a marketing point of view. If your pricing is out, then you're going to have some troubles at the moment. And that's because there's other alternatives. Or buying off the plan now, there's no incentive to buy off the plan. You're competing against established property. Yeah. So there's other options. There's options. So the most important thing right now is pricing and leading with the price. If your price is right, then there's still a market there for it. Pricing and product, get the pricing and product right, in the right location, and you're away. If you've got that right, then it's about using the right platforms to amplify your message and making sure that you're using something like apartmentdevelopments.com.au or houseandlanddevelopments.com.au to generate your inquiry. But all of that stuff comes and is made a lot easier by that early planning stage of making sure that you've done your research and you understand what the market wants in that area and at what price.
All right. So you've been around the industry for a while. What things have you seen change, and what things have stayed the same, and perhaps what things have stayed the same that should have changed?
Yeah. Well,
but that's not a Donald Rumsfeld kind of question.
Well, the online space has been the biggest change in my areas. I'm sort of in marketing and advertising, so the changes in the percentage of share that online gets compared to what it did back when I started has been probably the biggest shift. There's other players out there now. I think back then it was really real estate and domain. So there's other publishers out there that are making an impact. There's been massive swings in a focus on retail to focus on wholesale. So, for a period of time there, probably 70% of sales were going offshore or going into international networks. 30% were, would see on market that were advertised on an apartment development or a real estate company. Now that's shifted again. There's been another big shift to having to build or develop product that's in line with what the local market wants. So everything's now shifted back into retail. So everyone's having to sharpen up on their sales skills again, because for a long period of time, the bulk of these sales were just going through accountants and financial planners, and there was no real sales for quality required. It was more just package this up and send it out and put some incentives on it, and away it went.
I think there's some real estate agents out there at the moment finding that out as well, Tim, having to actually sell real estate now.
Yeah, well, that's right. And it's funny, I had a comment from one of the better agents in the off-plan space, I think in Australia, and he said, "It's funny." He said, "Your leads actually work." I said, "No, of course they do. I sort of, wouldn't have sold you a lemon here." They do work. They convert to sales. He said, but the thing is, they actually, it's the third phone call that I make where I start to make some progress. He said, our teams used to sort of make a couple of calls, and if they don't convert, then we throw them on the heap. So with the third call, we start to make a bit of progress. It's one more call we need to make to get, a sale, which is probably worth a fair bit of money to you. So I'd suggest 3 calls would be a minimum. How hard is it, really? So
doesn't really sound like a lot to sell a $500,000
right,
property or $1 million property.
Picking up a couple of % on that's not a bad payday. So yeah, I mean, there's a lot of great agents out there, and but yeah, there's been some changes in where those sales go over the years, and that's probably been one that's sort of fluctuated a lot. Developers and project marketers spend a lot of time going over to Southeast Asia and China and building relationships and connecting with groups, which is still, that could come back at some point, or most likely will. Maybe not to the degree that it was a few years ago, but there was a lot of effort put into building those relationships. Now the market shifted, and there's a lot of effort in building sales teams to deal with local inquiries. If they choose to stay in the market, and some developers are moving on and going other places because it's probably not as welcoming of environment to be in at the moment. So off they go.
What about things that haven't changed?
Things that haven't changed. Our pricing's been pretty consistent for a while now. Hasn't changed. So I was going to start talking about.
We'll start kicking real estate.
What hasn't changed?
Maybe they can look at their pricing with the change in the market conditions to anyone that's listening from realestate.com.
That's right. Yeah, that's right. That might be. Hasn't changed. Well, price increases is something that hasn't changed. They're always going to be something at REA's end. But
but you're still doing good projects, in well-located areas that are priced well.
Yeah. That's always going to go well.
They'll still go alright. They might just not sell out in one weekend or
That's right.
3 months. It might take 6 to 9 months.
Yeah, and I think once the price of sites come back, I mean, price of sites have been a major issue because people are getting in, buying it with slim margins. Construction prices then go up, and the market, sees a little bit of a dip. That's that you can find yourself in a sort of challenging situation if that's the case. But as sites prices go down a little bit, and that's going to happen in the next 6 to 12 months, price of sites go down a little bit. Construction is probably going to continue to go up, but yeah, I think the it's really all in the buy really of the site as to what you can do with your project, and if you buy it at the right price and you can get away with not being too greedy and pricing it the right way, pricing your units the right way, then you're still going to do fine.
Alright, so what's your top tip for developers out there who are looking to take their business to the next level?
Top tip would be to get some systems in place to measure from a marketing and advertising point of view, measure what's working for you. Now that might just be, as you mentioned before, Justin, writing some articles and bringing some people through to your site and measuring how many people read your article, how many people then submit their details or download a brochure. Making sure that you've got systems in place, whether it be your analytics or someone that's working on your website to ensure you know what people are doing when they come into your shop. Basically, if you're running a shop, you're watching closely what people are looking for and where they're going. If they keep walking into a wall, then you need to understand that and either put a door there and take them into a different section, a different room to show them what you've got. So measuring your where the value's coming from an audience point of view is really important, and knowing where your sales are coming from. That's the most important thing when you're developing, is getting your sales away. So knowing where those sales are coming from. But I always we'll go back to the biggest tip would be make sure you get the pricing right at the start, because no matter how good you are at marketing, you're not going to get your project away if it's overpriced.
I wanted to ask about whether you think Google and Facebook will move into property.
Well, they tried to, didn't they?
Well, I know they tried to, but
Facebook,
Google's not one to kind of quit easily.
Yeah, Google did try to back in 2008, I reckon. They came in and said that they were going to have a crack at the real estate space, but I think that I'm not sure the reasons why they pulled out, to be honest, but I know it was a big thing at REA when they did suggest that they were moving into the property space, and we were on a conference. It was about a week before a conference, a global conference, and the news came out that Google was hitting the property space. So the dynamic of the conference completely changed from what was originally planned to how do we defend against a player like Google coming into the market and trying to take our share. So, but that didn't really eventuate. Whether they didn't give it all that they could have, I don't know. And maybe they dipped their toe in and had a look at it, and they've got learnings, and they're coming back at some point. Don't know. But that would be, they've got the intel to do it. They've got, most developers use Google Analytics. So most publishers use Google Analytics. Most publishers use DFP, which is a Google ad server. most accountants use some form of, there'll be a Google tag there somewhere. So Google knows more about our business than we know about. We know about it. They don't know how much it costs to drive a one person through our website and convert to a lead. And then because the developer's got Google Analytics on his website, they know what it costs for a sale. So they could go and do a lot of damage. Not only in the property space, they could do it in any industry they want because of that fact. Because they have their tags and their analytics on every, on most websites in the world now. Some publishers are really, really paranoid about that, and they've moved away from using Google as an ad server, moved away from using it as their analytics platform because they're concerned about what you say about what if they do come into the market and they want to take over everything. How do you defend against that if you're using all their tools? So Facebook have also moved into that space as well. They've got Marketplace, so you can go and search property on Facebook now. So that they're already there again. If they wanted to aggressively move into that space, then they've got a pretty powerful little environment there to do so. You've got people exchanging all sorts of information. You know a lot about them. It's fairly there's an easy way of targeting. For Facebook, we use it as marketers to find audience as well, and we have Facebook extension that we do, and which targets people that leave our site and go to Facebook. We bring them back. We know that works well for lead conversion. Not a great quality of lead off Facebook, but compared to other areas, but it's a pretty powerful network. Obviously, we all know that. And it's the amount of data that they hold there is something that could be used against us at some point.
Just off there, you briefly touched on that you've got your own project that you're running. Can you tell us a little bit about that? Yeah,
just a small project in Glen Iris, a couple of townhouses, and townhouses are, as we spoke about before, townhouses are. I think townhouses are the product of the future for particularly for the middle ring and outer suburbs. The price of blocks have gotten so high in the outer suburbs, and they're big blocks and with small houses on it. So if a kid comes in and buys this block for $1 million, well, they're going to be fairly limited by the mortgage stress that they're under, and they're then got to live in a little 1930s built home that is not designed that they want, the way that they want to live. So I think townhouses have a long way to go in the outer ring, and creating more housing for people, more affordable housing in the suburbs. So and housing that people want to live in, designed the way that families function nowadays. So rather than having to be cramming themselves into this really ridiculously expensive block that they've bought and not being able to renovate it because it costs $400,000 to renovate it. So townhouses, I think, have got a lot of room to move. They're with the product of choice, I think, for the next 15, 20 years. And my little project is actually more geared towards downsizes in Glen Iris and sort of more higher end type townhouse. And I think there's a market there for it. There's plenty of our plenty of baby boomers that are selling their blocks at crazy prices, going on exotic holidays and buying expensive property. So we're sort of going after that market.
And how have you found the process? Have you had any lessons you've learned, some challenges along the way?
Yes, a lot of lessons learned, wasted a bit of money, and I have... I've actually come back to dealing with a company called Inform, and they've been fantastic. I've been really happy with the dealings we've had with them, and they do help you with the design and then they do the build for you as well. So they've been great. They've got a project manager there that sort of holds your hand along the way, which is probably something that I didn't think I needed, Justin, early on in the piece, but. But we made a few mistakes and learnt from them, which is all part of the fun, as you probably know. And
the unfortunate part of being a developer is that you pay for
Correct.
the learning of the mistakes.
Correct.
Other people also benefit from.
Yes, that's right. Yeah, that's right. When other people benefit from your mistakes, that really hurts. So, and that's been the case, but in some areas. But
so have you got a permit? You're selling?
No, not yet. No, we're not. We're just responding to
the fun part.
We're responding to 18 RFIs that came through off the original application. So we're addressing them at the moment.
Oh, yes.
Shaping things a little
getting
bit.
permits and dealing with councils, a series of podcast discussions. Well, I wish you well on that. Hope it works out. Hope you get your permit.
Thank you.
I'm still struggling to get my permits as well.
Good luck with yours.
Second last question. If you could have dinner with any three people, alive or dead, who would they be and why?
I have been asked this before, and well, it'd have to be my two grandfathers that I didn't get a chance to meet. So I'd like to, if I could have them back and sit down and have dinner with them, then that would be my first choice, to talk to them, ask them about their lives and what it was like to live back in that era. Both of them were around in their wartime, and one of my grandfathers was overseas in World War II. So that they would be my first choice. I would like to have a beer with Ned Kelly as well at some stage. I would have thought that would be pretty entertaining. Find out his side of the story. And I grew up in central Victoria, so he used to roam around our area, and I thought he would be an interesting bloke to have a beer with.
No doubt. All right, Tim. If people want to find out more about you or about the platforms that you work with, where should they go? Go to.
They could give us a call, or they could go to apartmentdevelopments.com.au or houseandlanddevelopments.com.au, and there's a contact us form there. Otherwise, you can find us. We have an AD group corporate page, which is out there. So check that out. Otherwise, find me on LinkedIn and send me a message, and that's where you'll get me.
Well, Tim, it's been awesome talking today about developments and marketing. Really appreciate your time and your insights.
Pleasure, Justin. Thanks for your time. Good luck with the projects.
Thanks. See you later.
Cheers.
Okay, there you go. A good chat on how digital marketing is helping to reshape off-the-plan selling. I found it amusing when Tim recalled how in 2007 an email address was considered worthless as a lead to a developer. How things have changed. Here are a couple of lessons I took from our conversation. 1. Product and pricing is still very important. Despite all the advances in digital marketing and the various platforms that have sprung up, getting your product and pricing right is still critical to the sale of an off-the-plan property. And this is amplified in a softening market. So pay close attention to what you are proposing and how much it is going to cost the buyer. 2. Producing content is a great way to help buyers. I am a strong believer in producing content and marketing materials that helps people make a buying decision. If you can help educate people on what they need to consider before they buy a property, that might be helpful and build trust. There is a mountain of content that you can produce to help people, from the type of furniture they may need in their new apartment, or how an owner's corporation works, or the story about how you chose the site for the project. You can also produce content about the people on your project team, the designers, builder, interior designers, etc., and sketch out the details of what you're trying to do. Just keep in mind that focusing on the needs of your potential buyers will produce more relevant content rather than just publishing stuff that's all about you. 3. Nurture and measure your leads. Tim mentioned that lead nurturing is very important and that paying attention to people is key to converting the lead into a sale. Tim highlighted the importance of measuring your efforts to understand where your audience is coming from and what they are interested in. And don't forget, if you have past buyers or an existing database, you can leverage your relationship with them. Maybe they have family or friends who may be interested in what you're doing. In fact, I am going to do just that on my next project with people who purchased in my last project. I'm going to let them know early on that we have something coming to market, so if there is any interest, we can get the conversation going. As they already have some experience dealing with me, they may feel more comfortable dealing with me again, or potentially referring family or friends to have a discussion with me. If you enjoyed that marketing chat with Tim, then check out my previous discussion with project marketer extraordinaire Ben Buxton about how to sell out your next development project. Ben had some great tips, including this.
Great campaigns are like a trail of cookies. So each time you get to a cookie, the cookie should get bigger every time you go along. I'm not talking web cookies, I'm talking actual cookies. And the problem is, I think when people don't do it right, they'll put a big cookie in front of the audience at the start, and the audience will fundamentally get indigestion.
So to find out more about the best type of cookies to use in your marketing, go back and take a listen to episode 8. Okay, that's just about it for this episode. Don't forget to email me, justin@propertydeveloperpodcast.com, if you are interested in learning how to develop property. And you can catch me on Facebook and Instagram for my latest pics, videos, and developing news. For all the past episodes of the show, head to www.propertydeveloperpodcast.com. So until next time, may you nurture all your leads to a conversion.
You've been listening to the Property Developer Podcast. Tune in next time for more tips, ideas, and inspiration to take your developing to the next level. For more developing love, make sure to visit propertydeveloperpodcast.com.